Hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man's Core Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'll be reacting my third and final scary storyteller channel for you all. And this one is Spooky Vibes, and the video that I'll be reacting to is 3 true first date horror stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
So last year, I went on a date with a guy named Dylan. He was a friend of a friend who said we should try and go on a date.
Okay.
And me being the hopeless romantic that I am, I agreed to it. Dylan and I agreed to meet at this coffee shop downtown. And when he walked in, he was just as handsome as my friend had described him to be. Like I literally had butterflies in my stomach and couldn't believe a man like him was single. Well, we ordered our coffees and started talking. I asked him what he did for work, for fun, and any hobbies that he had. The conversation was actually flowing pretty well. He was in the middle of telling me that he was a content creator when the waitress arrived at the table with our coffees. She put my ice-cold brew down first, and then went to put his coffee down. But in the process, the waitress lost her grip and accidentally spilled the coffee all over Dylan's shirt and shorts. To me, it was a harmless, innocent mistake, except Dylan did not think so.
Oh, crap. Once I heard he accidentally spills the coffee and he gets all mad about it thinking it ain't no mistake, that tells you he's one of those non-forgiving type people. That's the type of attitude vibe I'm getting off of the words here. Well, let's just see what else he does. That'll probably make a scene a lot worse in this coffee shop.
He started to scream at her for being an incompetent idiot. He started using slurs and derogatory words that I don't think you can use on YouTube. To put it mildly, he blew up like a rocket. I was actually scared at how angry and rude he was being to the waitress. Like, he went from being Mr. Nice Guy to psycho in less than a second. It got so bad that the coffee shop staff actually kicked us both out for his behavior, which I was fine with because I instantly knew that this was not the kind of man that I wanted to be with. As we walked out, I told him that I think it's best if we do not see each other anymore. I told him goodbye.
I mean, yeah, I'm glad that the coffee shop people kicked him out, but I mean, she didn't have nothing to do with it. She was just there for a little date, and he was the one that went berserk. But I don't blame her for breaking up and not want to continue dating with him because he really went total jerk and psycho all over spilled coffee, which you could just easily clean up.
Walked my car at the back end of the parking lot. I wanted to get away from him so fast that I nearly sprinted to my car. I fumbled with my keys for a second and then looked up. Dylan was full on sprinting at me with one of the coffee pots from the shop. He must have ran back inside and stole it. But he was running so fast that I didn't have any time to react. He shoved me into my car and then poured the hot coffee all over my body. I literally felt like I was in hell. I started screaming my head off for help. He punched me in my face and told me to shut up. Thankfully, staff and people from the coffee shop heard my screams and came out to help me. It actually took 4 men to subdue him and keep him pinned to the ground. Some of the staff brought out bottles of cold water to help pour on my burnt skin. Dylan was arrested for assault, and I was taken to the hospital for my burns. Thankfully, it wasn't anything too serious, but I do still have burn marks on my left thigh and left forearm. When I was released from the hospital, I freaked out on my friend, who had recommended me going on a date with Dylan. In her defense, she did not know that he was an absolute psycho, and I forgave her. But yeah, that was quite literally my date from hell.
It seems like it. I don't know why the guy had to literally go back into the coffee shop, grab a coffee pot, and pour hot coffee over her just because she said she didn't want to see him again. I mean, of course, I can see him getting angry about it, but that took it way too far. She don't want to see you no more because of the way you acted, dude. He really need to seek anger management. But I'm glad that some coffee shop employees and customers ran out there and subdued him and got the police involved to arrest him and charge him with assault and got her to a hospital. But I wouldn't blame her for flipping out on her friend because she was the one that did set her up with him. But of course, she didn't know that he was psycho either. I feel like he's probably two-faced. But hopefully she don't have to worry about seeing that guy no more. And she's okay and getting any life-threatening burns. So let's get to story number 2.
I still can't believe this story happened, but it did. 2 years ago, I went out on a first date with this girl named Chelsea, who I had met on the dating app called Hinge. She seemed very nice and pleasant. She looked good in her photos, and the conversations that we had leading up to the first date were honestly just very normal.
First of all, I never even heard of this dating app, Hinge. And secondly, that's nice that he found somebody lovely to meet on there. But you just got to be careful. You never know nowadays if the person that you're meeting is either a total psycho, just like the first person in the first story, or it might be someone catfishing you. But anyway, let's just see how this dating story plays out.
Well, I took her out to this Chinese buffet place in my town. I'm not the fanciest guy when it comes to setting up dates, but who doesn't love Chinese food? Anyway, I got there first and grabbed us a table. She came into the restaurant about 5 minutes later, and she looked stunning. But once we sat down and got our food, things started to get really weird. I started asking her questions about her life and all that stuff, and I couldn't help but notice that she wouldn't break eye contact with me. Like, not even for a second.
Okay, it's a real girl, so you're not being catfished, but that is kind of weird that when you're talking to her and asking her questions about her life, she's not breaking eye contact with you. Almost like she is stunned to be sitting across the table from you, but I'll be freaking out on the inside.
She would stare at me with these wide eyes, barely blinking and just staring into my soul. I asked her if she was okay, and she said yeah, she's fine. Even though she was beautiful, I was sort of getting put off by the intense eye contact, and excused myself to go to the bathroom. When I got back, she said the strangest thing that I've ever heard. When I sat down, she told me she found a piece of my hair on my chair, and she is now saving it. I tried to laugh this off like it was a joke or something, but she didn't smile and just continued to stare at me with those intense eyes. I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I already knew that this would be our first and last date. When we finally finished eating, which I made sure to eat my food fast, I walked her out to the parking lot to make sure she got to her car safely. She asked me for a hug, and I told her that I felt sick and didn't want to give her what I have to her. I got back into my car, thankful to be away from her, and drove back home. When I got home, I was in my living room playing my PlayStation. It was late at this point, like almost midnight. I heard my phone make a noise and saw that I got a text message. It was from Chelsea. The text said, "I've eaten your hair. Now you are officially part of me. We can never be separated." Bro, I literally was speechless when I read her text.
I mean, I'm speechless too. No normal girl will say, "I've eaten your hair, so now you're part of me." She's totally insane. Sounds like somebody that needs to be locked up in a mental asylum. At this point, I'd be like calling the cops to get a restraining order because I don't want her near me and keep on texting to him.
I didn't even respond back. I just blocked her number and all of her social media so that she could never contact me again. And I'm still single, by the way. I've gone on a few dates since Chelsea. They were all nice and normal and not absolute maniacs, but at the moment, I like my life the way it is. I haven't seen Chelsea since.
Oh, thank God. She probably got the hint like she creeped him out too much and didn't want to be around her no more. But thankfully, he didn't see her again and he was able to go on some dates with other ladies. But hopefully he does get back out there in the dating scene and find one that he would want to put a ring on the finger, you know what I mean?
Last year, I went out on a date with this girl named Nicole. We had actually met in line at Walmart. She was buying this big teddy bear, and I asked her about it, and we sort of hit it off right then and there. I asked for a number and set up a date for that Friday. I picked a fancy Italian restaurant. Nicole came dressed in this tight red dress, and she honestly looked gorgeous. But as we started talking more and more on the date, I started to notice some red flags. She told me how she tends to be very clingy. All of her past relationships were toxic because she could never just be away from her man. I was seriously considering maybe not seeing her again, because all that sounded like way too much drama to me.
Yeah, it kind of does. It seems like her past relationships, they just kept on wanting to cling on to her because they want to spend time with her, but then reality check, she might not want that. She might just wants to walk and go shopping by herself. That's creepy to hear.
But she then mentioned that she'd been seeing a therapist and she's gotten better at it. When I paid for the bill, we stepped outside the restaurant for a cigarette. I lit hers, and that's when she asked if I would be her boyfriend. I almost choked on the smoke because I was caught off guard from the question. I didn't want to be rude, but I told her politely that we had just met, and this is our first date. We should take things slower. She nodded her head like she understood what I was saying, but I could see in her eyes that she was raging with anger inside. I actually took a step back from her because she looked like she was about to explode. She saw me step back, looked me dead in the face, and asked, "So you won't be my boyfriend?" I took another drag of my cigarette and told her sorry, no, not right now. Without hesitation, there was this car coming by. It was about to pass right by us when, and I shit you not, she literally jumped out in front of it. The car wasn't going too fast, but didn't hit the brakes fast enough, and it collided with Nicole. She literally flew back like 10 feet and was motionless on the ground. People started rushing over to her to see if she was okay, but she wasn't moving. I called an ambulance and told them to get to the restaurant ASAP. When the paramedics arrived, they were able to help put her on a gurney and take her to the hospital. I found out later that night that she was okay, but had several broken bones and a fractured skull. A few weeks after this happened, Nicole texted me and apologized for what she did. She told me that she wanted me to be her boyfriend so bad that when I said no, she just wanted to delete herself. I'm glad she's okay, but I had to explain to her this time that we couldn't date or see each other anymore. Like I couldn't deal with that kind of person. I feel like an asshole, but I'd rather be honest with her than lie.
Of course.
Over text, she took my rejection pretty well. She's back in therapy and she should be doing okay. But yeah, that was the craziest first date that I've ever been on.
I'll say that's the worst date experience. That would definitely freak me out. Just see a girl jump right in front of a moving vehicle that was either entering the parking lot or leaving, and then get hit and fall back 10 feet. I'm glad she's okay, but thankfully, he said that she is back in therapy and hopefully she can control herself next time. But I would blame him for not trying to continue on a date with her, and she was more understanding with that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications for more spooky vibes related content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap. Have a nice day, y'all.